Hello, and welcome to The Kosh. I'm your host, Timber Smith, and The Kosh is a podcast that spotlights the people who've had an association with the Kosh and the surrounding Fox Cities area. Good morning, Kosh listeners. How are we doing? Oh, and let me not forget that this episode of The Kosh is sponsored by Sturgeon Spirits Craft Distillery, the Kosh's newest tradition. Big shout out to that team over there at Sturgeon Spirits, my favorite church, no doubt. How are we doing this morning? It is a fabulous morning. I'm liking it. This, can I just take a moment and say this winter is the greatest winter of Wisconsin that I think I've ever lived since I've lived in Wisconsin. This winter makes me happy. This winter was really like, it just wasn't that bad. I shouldn't say this out loud, so I'm going to find some wood to knock on, but nonetheless, this here has just been fabulous. I like these peekaboo 50-degree days every once in a while. I like the fact that I haven't had an abundance of days where these weird words like polar vortex and squalor have taken over my life and have made it miserable. This here has been a wonderful winter, and I'm hoping that spring decides to be short and we just get straight to summer. Why don't we just go on and do that? I'm gonna put that in the atmosphere. I'm a firm believer that if you want it to be, you must say it, and I'm saying it. Facts. All right. So let's I think we're about ready to jump in. And let me just say this. Well, you know what I'm gonna say. I think you know what I'm gonna say. I don't know how I continue to get these amazing, amazing guests, and make no doubt, this week is no different. And I am super excited about this week's guest. I think this is going to be like some episodes, you just know the conversation is going to be fluid. It's going to flow. We're going to talk about cool things. We're going to get into some things. We're going to say some things. So, I'm very excited about this. So without further ado, this week's guest is Bob Knudsen. Did I get that right, Bob?
Absolutely nailed it.
Hey, we get, every once in a while, the sun shines on a dog's behind, and that means things are good.
Well, yeah, and today being such a bluebird day, as they say in the mountains, the sun is shining on any behind that's outside. It's a gorgeous day.
It's a bluebird day. I've never heard that term before.
I first heard that term when I was living and working in Alaska in the Denali Park, Fairbanks area. I came to find out later that a lot of places that are, mountain regions use the term bluebird day. And literally it just means, bright, sunny, big blue sky and, not a ton of wind, so that, keeping the wind chills down. That's another phrase that you didn't have to hear an awful lot this winter.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, the dictionary definition of bluebird day.
I like it.
I declare it so.
You declare it so. Okay, then it's official.
Officially a bluebird day here in the Kosh.
All right. Well, Bob, you ready to jump in?
With both feet.
Okay. Can you please share a little something about yourself and your connection with the Kosh and the surrounding Fox Cities region?
Well, the jokes, the two simple jokes is, well, I've got a face for radio, so that's why I'm here. But I played a little bass guitar, so some people in the Kosh, 20 or so years ago might have seen me jumping around on stage acting a fool.
What was the name of that band?
The band was called Serendipity.
Okay.
We played around in Oshkosh in the late 90s, just after the turn of the millennia. At that time, Oshkosh was enjoying one of its live music revivals. We had had a few extra venues than we do now, and we had a few more local bands. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. We made a lot of good music.
Okay. What was your primary music type that y'all played?
Well, we were kind of a modern version of classic rock. We had more in common with Leonard Skinner and the Black Crowes. Crows were more of our contemporaries. But we did original music mostly. I mean, we did a few covers here and there.
Okay.
Like we did the Allman Brothers song Whipping Post.
Oh, that's a favorite.
And as a bass player, that's a lot of fun. And yeah, I was the bass player. So I got to start that song, which was a downright blast. But that song was the second of two that we did. We started that little section with a song called Mailman, Bring Me No More Blues, which was done by a band out of the Appleton area in the late 60s called Soup. So as that song was ending, it was the big cacophony of drums and crash, bang, boom, crash, and then I'm starting, and it just kind of rose in until suddenly everybody realized, oh, wow, they're on a new song.
What is the favorite song that a bass player loves to like they're excited when that's part of whatever that band plays? What is that bass player favorite?
It really depends on the kind of band that you are. There are, there's strict cover bands that only do other people's songs. And, that takes a lot of talent to do. And then, bands like the one that I was in, Serendipity, by the time we were, like fully fledged doing our real thing, we were doing a 3-hour show with only 2 cover songs. So first off, what do bass players like to do? Well, if you're a cover band, you really enjoy the song that has a good part for you.
Right.
For me, Whipping Post was one. That was a lot of fun. Beatles, I Want You. Oh, God, that was a blast to do. And the band Space Hog, their song In the Meantime, that has a really neat little bass fill and intro. That was a lot of fun.
Off the top of my head, and I'm thinking this because it came on my radio routine this morning, is Sly and the Family Stone, If You Want Me to Stay. That starts with a bass line.
I can't picture the song by title right now. That's always been a bit of a curse for me. It was especially kind of funny in the band. We're playing original music, and I see a set list, and I see the song title Whiskey Falls. I'm like, I know that's a song title of ours.
Yeah,
I don't remember which one that is.
Oh,
it actually, bit me a couple of times. Most notably, once when we were playing in Appleton at Mongo's, their Upper Mongolian Lounge. We were halfway through a song before I really finally realized, oh yeah, that's what this one is. And I was playing the exact wrong thing the entire time, but it worked.
It came out okay.
I faked it until I got there.
I've heard about doing that.
Yeah. And, especially, the rhythm section, the bass player and the drummer, don't stop ever. If you make a mistake, make that mistake 3 more times. It'll sound like you meant it. That was always described to me as the difference between jazz and blues.
I'm learning.
In blues, if you play a wrong note, bend it until it's right. And in jazz, if you play a wrong note, play it 3 more times.
Yeah. I'm learning today.
Yeah. But, in addition to, those couple of, major points about like who I am, the phrase jack of all trades kind of does apply to me. I've worked in a lot of different industries. I've spent a lot of time pounding quarry tiles in kitchens.
Bruh.
Yeah. Back of house is where it's at. It's a pirate ship, man. I worked in automotive. One of the things I did when I was in Alaska, I was running, basically left to run a Volkswagen salvage yard. So I was pulling parts and putting parts on cars. I pulled the rear window out of a 1970s era Rabbit truck, slapped it into a handmade shipping container and sent it to Texas. So something went from the interior of Alaska that is incredibly fragile all the way to Texas and made it. Dude was super happy because, I screwed up when I sent that one out and didn't include the shipping charges.
So you got it. Yeah.
So after paying for shipping, I think I made $10 on that window, and it was a few $100 part, but live and learn.
Live and learn. Okay. If you weren't doing, you know what? You didn't talk about what you're doing now. So what are you doing now?
Well, right now I am a 3rd shift custodian at UW Oshkosh. University didn't always have a 3rd shift. I'm only coming on to my 5th year working there. And, in years past, and anybody who was under 5 years was a newbie. Right now, we've got a lot of people that are under 5 years because, pandemic. caused a lot of custodians to leave the field.
Right.
But when we were called back after being furloughed, they instituted a third shift. And, myself and my wife, who also works at UWO as a custodian, we discussed it and thought, okay, let's see, there's a worldwide pandemic. It is spread by person-to-person contact and people breathing. And we run around cleaning these things, these areas, to make sure that people don't get sick. Do we want to do it when nobody else is around? Oh, yes, of course. So we raised our hands like, yeah, we want to be third shift. And so that's what I've been doing, since we got back from the pandemic. Been a lot of unique things happening on the UW-Oshkosh campus. Not a lot of them great, but yeah, it's more than a paycheck for people like myself. When I got called back or when we all got called back to go back to work, I actually had a couple of other job offers, one of which working, doing some political canvassing, which I've done before. But, my dedication to my community kind of told me, I have to go back to UW-Oshkosh because, here we are, we're a community that brings in people from all over the world to learn. And these people might be coming back, they might be coming back with COVID. Some of them did. And, an experienced custodian is going to do a better job of cleaning that classroom than somebody that's fresh and new. And
facts.
so I felt, because of my dedication to my community, I have to go back to UWO. And I've been there ever since. And to be perfectly honest, if it's in the cards, I'll retire from UW-Oshkosh. Working for the state is a great honor.
I just know when I worked there, I loved our custodial engineers, as I will refer to them as. They were fantastic. I was in Dempsey, and there was one lady, and I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but she was super short. She's super short. And she was just like, you just know when you see those people every day, day in and day out, handling the business that they handle. And then they also know where things are.
Mm-hmm.
So I always made sure I took time, had conversation, asked them about weekends, paid the due respect of the profession and their professionalism. And they were awesome.
A little hint that I like to give to incoming freshmen is, if you have a lot of classes in one building, try to get to know your custodian. As if you're on good terms with your custodian, you show up one day, you don't have a pencil, a pen, you see the custodian walking by, is like, hey, I might be able to find a pen or a pencil. I got class in like 20 minutes. Yeah. The custodian's got a stash of them. Yeah. Because
right.
students and faculty leave stuff behind all the time. They leave stuff behind. And sometimes you can see some really fine looking pens. And, if I see a really nice looking pen sitting on a desk, I could just throw it away, or I'm going to grab this one. I might use it later. Or somebody approaches me later. Hey, I need a pen. Got you. Here you go.
I got you.
And, when you have that kind of relationship with the people that work, for the institution that you're paying for, it can, garner some benefits. I recall specifically a student coming up to me who, I gave her a pen once, and she asked me, hey, I lost an earring in this particular classroom. If you come across it, let me know. And I did. I found it. Found this little butterfly earring. It was important to her. It probably wasn't expensive. Might have been a gift, but, it was important enough to her to ask about it. And, was able to just, hey, gotcha. Next time I saw her, give her a wave. Here you go. It's just it's a smart thing. It's a little behind the scenes kind of inside baseball idea for folks.
I just think it's a respect thing. I think if you are smart in the place that you work, you must know your custodial engineers. You must know the front desk people.
Yes.
Who's ever at the front desk, you must know them and pay them the true respect and reverence that they deserve, because they know more than anyone else in the place usually.
Yeah. You mean it's valuable to know the department heads. If you're a biology student, sure, know who's the chair of the biology department. More important, know the receptionist.
That's right.
Because if you need to talk to that department head, you got to go through that receptionist first. And if they already don't like you, you ain't seeing anybody.
Not for a while.
Nope. I mean, you're going to go on the list, but that list might be 25 people long. And, that department head might not have anything going for the next 15 minutes, but, that receptionist just might be, able to say, let me check.
That right. This seems like it's urgent. Mm-hmm. Yep. This is true. Well, okay. You really do have a breadth of a lot of different experiences there.
Yeah. You need me to make a wooden box? I've done that professionally. You need me to pull off a bumper? Yes, I've done that professionally. You need me to make hollandaise sauce? I know the basics of it. I'll look it up and I will make it. But now if you need a Philly cheesesteak, I'm your man.
You know what, Bob? We're going to be friends. That's what's going to happen here. We're going to be friends. Okay. Well, you ready to jump in?
You betcha.
Okay. First segment. Oh, yep. That's Bosco the podcast dog has to come. He's got to get some scratchies in. He's in full effect. All right. Kosh listeners, you know what I'm thinking about doing is I'm thinking that my next run of t-shirts, we're going to make a Bosco the podcast dog t-shirt with his face on it.
Hats.
Oh, you want a hat?
I want a hat.
A Bosco the podcast dog hat?
Yeah. I mean, I think he would be awesome as a beanie.
He would be awesome as a beanie. Well, he's just awesome. Yeah. But a hat? I will think about that. If we can figure out how to get Bosco the podcast, someone that y'all need to let me know if that's a real deal. Go ahead and email me at askthekosh@gmail.com and let me know if the Bosco the podcast dog merchandise should be in play. Because you know what? He's a cool man. That's what he is.
I mean, t-shirts are, the screen printing is a little bit easier than say, doing an embroidery on a hat, but man, Bosco, an embroidered Bosco, dang, that would be a collector's item.
It would make the wife happy because she thinks he's worthy.
She would be correct.
Yes. All right. We're going to jump into segment 1. Segment 1 is what in the world is going on with. That's where you start with the phrase, what in the world, and tell us what's on your mind. So, Bob, you know what, Bob, before we jump into this, I'm actually going to go back.
Okay.
Because you know what we didn't talk about? You're running for thing.
I am. And I am not an athlete any longer.
Let's talk about it.
You bet. I'm currently a candidate for Winnebago County Board, District 16. And my district is one of the most diverse, I think, in Winnebago County.
Which one is 16?
Well, District 16 encompasses all of UW Oshkosh. So everyone that lives in Halsey, they're my constituents. And since nobody lives in Halsey, that's just a joke. But there are plenty of people who live on campus and in the dormitories. So those are all my constituents if I'm elected. So they're my potential voters. Additionally, we do have a good section in the 16th of, straight up working class. So, guys going to work at truck, that, used to work at Leach and you're now working, it's called Oshkosh Corp. Local restaurant workers, making their way to the downtown spots to work. So, you got students, you got working class, and then we got all along the riverfront here. There's all sorts of new apartment buildings that have gone up.
Yes.
There's a lot of, off-campus student housing in there, but, also, the penthouse of the Brio building is not a student. That's somebody that's making some bank. You probably got a couple of, more than a few 6-figure folks that are living in, these, on the riverfront spots. So, when it comes to reaching out to voters, man, I really can't have one message, and I'm still kind of figuring out how to speak to everybody. It's, the needs and wants of a college freshman are going to be very different than the needs and wants of the construction foreman that's decided to get an apartment on the river because he's going to be putting up the new Theta Clark across the river from him. So challenging, and challenge accepted.
What made you want to run?
It's a little bit of a convoluted story, but the long and short of it is, I've always considered myself to be more on the journalism side of the political coin, that I would be covering politicians, not necessarily, being one. That was a career path that I was on when I was last a student, which Well, that didn't work out great. Deal with that. But after basically realizing, yeah, I'm not going to be a journalist. I'm not going to be interviewing folks for who are going to be on the ballot. But I've been paying attention, so I've got ideas. And this election cycle, I thought that I was going to be the sacrificial lamb to put my name on the ballot to go up against Glenn Grothman, our congressperson here in the 6th congressional district of Wisconsin. Last election cycle, he ran unopposed, and for citizens here in the 6th, having no choice just didn't make any sense to me. So I started putting out feelers about, well, how do I do this? How do I get my name on the ballot? And I say sacrificial lamb because, Glenn, Republican, has deep pockets.
And he's been around for a minute.
Exactly.
He's got name recognition. I don't know if people, because there's a certain point where I don't know if people voting because they like him or it's because they just know there's a familiarity,
right? And
there's a sense of experience.
Yeah. I mean, incumbency has benefits.
Yes.
And Glenn has been working it for years. I mean, he's the king of the fish fry circuit. I mean, if there's a fish fry in the 6th congressional district, you've eaten with Glenn. I nearly guarantee it. You can check his Facebook page, and there's a lot of Glenn at fish fries. And to be perfectly honest, if that's part of the job, I wouldn't mind that either.
Not against a good fish fry.
Bruh.
And I'm along the old fashioned circuit myself.
Well, that's usually afterwards. I mean, if you're going to the church for the fish fry, you're not going to get that there. You got to go to Leroy's afterwards.
Facts.
Oh well, or Reptile Palace. Beth does a great old fashioned, by the way.
Oh, big shout out to Reptile. Those are my people.
Little hint, little foreshadowing. We'll mention them again later. But so as I was doing that, actually, Bob Peschel, longtime friend, he's been an elected official in a few different spots. He's been county board himself. He's been school board. I believe he's also been on the city council. So, he's worn a few hats. He started a social justice organization here in town years ago. But, we've been familiar with each other for a while. And Bob actually reached out to me before I, really got too far into this, sacrificial lamb idea, and asked me, would you be interested in running for county board? And I was kind of taken aback initially because I hadn't really thought about it. And I just thought I was going to put my name up there as a loser and, just to have a name on there, for crying out sideways. So, after he asked, I thought about it a little bit and, talked with him about, what it would entail, why he was asking me in the first place. And I came to the conclusion that, this is probably a good idea. Elected officials, even at the local level, in Oshkosh City Council and County Board is what I mean by local level. A lot of folks that are in these positions have reached a level of what we would traditionally call success. Business owners, executives working in a corporation, but there's not a lot of frontline workers that are represented by the voting public, and I really feel that that's important. As a custodian, for example, on the UW Oshkosh campus, if you want to know, the full picture about where there is money wasted, talk to the custodians. We're the ones taking out the trash.
Oh my God.
Bruh.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. And, when it comes to, spending in our communities, sure. I mean, I want to know what a business owner thinks. These are people that are providing jobs. That's a valuable perspective. The people working those jobs, they also need to be represented there. So when there's an idea to upgrade a boat launch, okay, we're going to need to make sure it's deep enough, long enough, so that way people with the larger boats can get in and out. But also we need to make sure that, the guy that's got just the little John boat can come in, and, the neighborhood kids who are going to be walking their canoe down, it's just easier to put in there than it is, to jump in Sawyer Creek. And that's a perspective that, somebody that might be towing a big chaparral boat might not really have. It's important maybe to think about having a recreation area right there. A family might be able to come down and enjoy watching these big boats go in and watching them take off. That could be fun. I mean, kids like big trucks, kids like big boats. this is a family thing, a little recreation area, just, bathroom facilities, a couple of picnic tables, and maybe a grill. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big chunk out of the budget, but it makes it a heck of a lot more useful to a wider range of people. And, coming from a worker's background, that's why I'm running, is, to bring this perspective to the county board.
You sound like the everyman candidate. Like truly the everyman candidate, not someone just telling you that they're the everyman candidate.
Yeah, it's kind of like the idea of grassroots versus astroturf in politics.
Facts.
For those not in the know, grassroots, everyone kind of understands that concept. It comes from the ground up, from the people saying, hey, we want this.
Oh yeah.
Whereas astroturfing, it's, people with money coming and saying, hey, tell everybody you want to do this. Here's some money backing for it.
Oh, I hear you. Well, I get grassroots because we are a grassroots podcast.
Right.
1000%. Okay. Well, I think you'll get more opportunities. Is there anything else you want to say about your campaign at this time? Because I feel like we'll get more visits to it, but I wanted to get that out here on the front end and make sure that we, that this is a part of the reason that you're on the Kosh here today, because you are a candidate. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that people understand, like, while they're listening to this episode, like, I'm a firm believer that we are people in this region. We vote for who we know, like who we feel like we can relate to. Like that's like where we start. Then other things may come into play about our political decisions, but like, mm-hmm. When we feel like you're one of us.
Right. And, we already mentioned the power of incumbency, being someone that's already in the office. They've got people, you've got name recognition. That's why for folks like myself, I don't have a lot of name recognition outside of a couple of small circles. So, as a candidate, you get the opportunity to reach out to and talk to some other groups. There's some surveys that go out and there's some endorsements that can be made. And currently, I actually do have 2 endorsements. I'm incredibly proud of both. One of which is the Fox Valley Area Labor Council, a group of local AFL-CIO labor leaders. I reached out to them because, I've always been strong for the labor movement. I mean, go figure, frontline worker, labor movement. Yeah,
facts.
Yeah, seat at the table.
You are doing labor.
Yeah, this is me. Yeah. So, the Fox Valley Area Labor Council gave me their endorsement, which I was super proud to get. Looking forward to making sure that that it's earned. Along with that, Fair Wisconsin PAC also has endorsed me. They work on LGBTQIA issues, and that's a part of our community that right now they've got a little bit of a struggle on the horizon.
Oh no, they got a full on fight.
Oh yeah. Look, I was being a little bit more politically correct.
You go ahead and be politically correct. I ain't running for nothing. I'm gonna go on and stick up for our brothers and sisters, and them, they, and theirs.
Yep. Yeah. Whichever the pronoun is, Yeah. I believe it was Maya Angelou once said something along the lines of, "When we know better, we can do better."
Facts. And
when it comes to our brothers and sisters in that community, we learn.
Yes.
20 years ago, calling an individual they, because that's their chosen pronoun, we didn't know how to do that. It wasn't something that we knew that should be done. It might have been discussed, within the tight knit community, but it's now come out a little bit further. Come out. It's out there a little bit more in the open, and so folks like myself, I'm a cisgendered white boy, married to my wife. On the surface, I don't really have a lot of connections to the LGBTQIA community, but I listen and I learn. And when I learn, I can do better. I can advocate better. And, as in my hopeful role as county supervisor, when things come up that can affect the community, whichever community it is, I'm listening. So I can do better, and I can make a better vote.
What you want people to really know about you?
I'm earnest. I may seem full of BS, and A lot of times if you can't see me and you don't see the one corner of my mouth creeping up, it's kind of a wry smile. You don't know I'm talking a little smack, having a little fun. But when it gets down to brass tacks to real issues, I'm going to be straight, and that's important. I don't think you can be a successful elected official by being anything less than 100% transparent and honest. And that's going to be my MO from here on out. And it has been for a long time, but now I'm asking for people to vouch for me and tell everybody else, hey, I want this guy to have this job. So, I got to be straight with people. Got to be straight with the LGBTQIA folks. I made two politically correct puns, and that's a trick, for.
Is that oh my God. You're killing me, Bob. All right. I like where this went. I'm glad you got a chance to kind of talk about this a little bit more. Well, I'm sure you'll get an opportunity to come back and revisit this a few more in different ways. Okay. So we're going to go back to segment 1. What in the world is going on with? And that is where you start with the phrase, what in the world? And then you tell us what is on your mind.
What in the world is going on with people refusing facts? Bruh. Woo. I mean, one of the sillier ones, flat earth. I really did not think that people really actually believed that when I first started hearing about it. The idea that no, the earth isn't a globe, it's not round, it's this flat disk that's floating out in space, and the moon is just something that comes across over us. And if you can go to the edge of the earth and look over the abyss and into, I don't know, it never really got described. That's why I didn't really think that it was real. But, there are people that really fervently believe this. And there are so many facts that disprove this. I mean, right here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, we can stand on the shores of Lake Winnebago and look across a high cliff. We don't see the exact point in High Cliff where the water meets the shore because slight curvature of the earth. It's just enough to be able to see it. If you've got a good telescope, you're going to be looking like 1.5 feet up from the shoreline if you look across the lake. It's a fact. How can you deny the fact? I mean, you get on an airplane. If you get high enough in an airplane, you can see a little bit of a curve on the horizon. It's right there. It's a fact. So, I mean, that's the jumping off point of, the refusal of facts. There's, it's a little deeper than that. This is where it gets a little bit sounding partisan, which is another thing that confuses the heck out of me. How can facts be partisan? When
they became alternative facts.
Yeah, thank you for that one. Yeah, thank you, Kellyanne Conway, for that. That piece of what is going to go down in history is one of the most ridiculous things ever said.
Or to be fair, on the other side of the coin, it was brilliant. I'm not saying it was productively brilliant, but it has caught phrase, and even more so than that. When you think about that term, here's what's happened. When it was introduced, I don't think we were in that place of alternative facts, right?
No, we weren't yet.
But now that's a thing with our media. Yeah. Because as you watch media, all media is not created the same.
Oh, that's something we're going to get into a little bit later too.
And there is alternative facts media.
Yep.
Fully based on it.
Yeah. I think more of that we'll cover a little in a later segment. We'll get a little bit deeper into that. But yeah, it's also one of the motivators for me, even running is that, there are folks that refuse to accept the reality of the situation. And it's based on just a refusal to accept a fact. I mean, a grilled cheese sandwich is delicious. A grilled cheese sandwich that hit the floor, less delicious. We can call that a fact, right? I think we can all agree.
How clean is that floor?
Exactly. If it's restaurant clean, and cleaned by a professional, maybe, but nah.
No, in your mind, it's not the same.
No, exactly. You're gonna know there might be a bit of Bosco hair on that grilled cheese, and
might be a different little crunch, just a little.
Bruh. Little Ernest P. Worrell there.
Uh,
So yeah, that's my biggest what in the world is I don't understand it. 2 + 2 = 4.
Facts.
Done.
All right. I get that. I respect that. Okay. My what in the world is going with on with is what in the world is going on with massive email complications.
Bruh.
All right. And what I mean by that is this. Okay. So where I work, we've got to have serious firewalls, right? To keep the nonsense off so we don't get taken over and ransomed and all the other good stuff, right? We don't want that nonsense.
Right.
But that being said, like there's so much the email protocols are, and it's not ridiculous. Like from what I've understand, there's certain things about emails where if emails aren't done a certain way, then it triggers certain things and then those emails can't get through. But the bad part is you never know they didn't get through because nothing ever tells you this email tried to reach out to you, but they couldn't get through because this triggered this and this and that. And this isn't something that's just happening where I work. This is happening across everywhere who has, serious firewall things going on.
Yeah, email filters can be good and can throw some things into the junk folder that shouldn't be there. Yeah.
Well, or maybe they should have been. It's kind of a mix of the both, right? And then you just don't know. So that's what in the world is going on with is like, I think that's tough. And so we are actually talking with our IT people, or our IT people were kind of talking in this meeting. They weren't necessarily presenting, but they were explaining like email protocol and stuff like that. And they just said, as we have more entities out here, more malicious entities out here trying to cause issues and problems and do malicious things, it's going to get to the point that they're almost going to have to hire someone who does nothing but deal with email filtering. And actually, it makes all the sense in the world in a sense, but isn't that a shame?
Yeah. I mean, even in the business world, there are personal things that happen within emails. And, I wouldn't necessarily want, the receptionist in front of me to be actually seeing everything that comes in. But, we're in a place in the world where maybe that's a good idea. Sometimes AI can work on something like that. And that's kind of how I see email filters. But, I rent, for example, and how does my Hotmail account put someone asking me to upgrade my gutters into my focused inbox when that's definitely should be in my junk mail? I mean, I'm not buying gutters for the house I don't own.
Oh yeah,
I mean that ain't gonna happen.
But that just so the whole email thing is just it's fascinating to me because I'm in a situation where I know that different entities are trying to reach out to me, but I'm never hearing from me. And then I happen to bump into them. They're like, "Did you get my email?" Or "How come you haven't responded to my email?" Both of which I'm never ready for. Right. But then again, I also understand like I don't want to be the one that gets the email that you click because a thing recently happened where somebody's, as a matter of fact, there's a thing where there were some email issues, right? And so I don't want to be the one to cause email issues,
right?
Because it's bigger than what most people think. If you click the wrong thing and you introduce somebody into your system, the next thing you know, they're doing business as you. Mm-hmm. And depending on who you are, the elevation of who you are and the importance and your association to whatever, that just makes a whole lot of other people click because no one's looking at it thinking,
right,
you got took.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if somebody has is known to have ties to the purse strings in an organization, and you get an email from somebody that has that, it's like, hey, I need you to send this money over to there. But you were hacked. Somebody else sent it. Yeah, I've heard of it. Not my area of expertise, but also in dealing with internal work emails for me, that's UW Oshkosh. They have done a pretty good job of training all employees on that. Speaking of which, I've got a annual IT training video to go over.
That's right. Get it done.
Yeah, the big one is it's all about security to make sure you don't click on that especially any link in any email.
That's the key. I know that video. Hopefully it's changed.
I was going to say, hopefully, I'm hoping it's updated from the last, one I've seen the last 5 years, but it might not be because, as far as I can tell, it's the same advice. Don't click the link.
Well, I think it still applies.
Yeah. And for me, when I get something that looks a little goofy in my inbox, now from my work email, I'm able to actually forward it over to the IT department. Just say, hey, is this legit? And, a couple of times it was, but there was, a few times where it was like, oh yeah, flag that as spam for us, please. You got it.
Okay. You ready to jump into the next segment?
Absolutely, positively.
The next segment is called 21 Questions. There aren't 21 questions, but these amazing questions might solicit 21 answers because they're so good.
And be careful what you ask for, Timber. I am known to go on and on.
Well, if you didn't know anything about the Kosh, we will let you. Bruh. What are you grateful for?
So the simple phrase is communal human love. And that's just simply, that's care. That's care for your community, the people you see on a daily basis, whether it be the mailman as you walk out, the custodian in your classroom, the front desk clerk, at the tire place. And love can be, as simple as just a kind word to the person you're interacting with on a daily basis, once in a lifetime basis. It's about it being good in your community, loving your neighbors, loving your neighborhood, having empathy for everyone around you. And more often than not, like really in the day-to-day, interactions in the world, you see that. And I'm grateful for it. I love it. It's fantastic. In our current world of, a lot of things being digital, a lot of things being virtual, we're exposed to people from all over the world, and we're not always going to be the nicest to them. I mean, it's devolved quite a bit, but, before Musk took over Twitter, man, Twitter was a mean place to be. There wasn't a lot of communal love in there, but you can get that when you walk down, to your local grocery store. When you walk into Wagner Market, you get to see some of that communal love.
Facts.
Folks are behind the counter, like, they smile, they greet you, they're happy to see you.
Facts.
And, those day-to-day interactions, I'm just so grateful that, that we haven't lost that. The internet was always kind of a snarky place, and it's gotten more so. So I'm loving all the more, the actual interpersonal contact and care that you get from people on the streets. That doesn't matter typically what side of an aisle you land on politically. You can be nice to people, hold the door for somebody. It doesn't matter if that person you held the door for, if they vote blue or they vote red. It's just that little kindness. It's a simple thing to do, and the more you do it, the more of a habit it is, and the more it spreads. And we got a lot of it. I'm grateful for it. We can have more.
What motivates you?
Along that very line, the care in our community. It makes me want to do more. Makes me want to care more. It's helped drive me to running for office. That by being a county board member, I can hopefully spread a little bit more love, spread a little bit more care. Like I mentioned earlier, at that particular boat launch, it made, at this county boat launch, it was just for folks to throw their boats in. Well, now we got a little recreation area in there. I'm motivated to do something like that, to help make our community more livable, to spread love, to spread care, to spread empathy. I'm motivated to do that. And what motivates me to do those things is feeling that love, feeling that sense of community, feeling that empathy from others. It's a cyclical thing. The more of it I receive, the more I can give. And it's empowering. And it's the Kosh, man.
Facts. What grounds you?
Smart Alec answered that as a shower. That that just really sets me for the day. A little bit more interesting, like actual physical electrical grounding to a community. Touching Lake Winnebago, like physically putting my hand in the water or taking off my shoes and wading in the water just a little bit, just to remind myself, where I am. I'm in Oshkosh. It's Oshkosh on the water. It was our big bit for a long time. I can see that little wave on your shirt right now. That's Oshkosh. That's the Kosh. And, when I haven't done a ton of traveling, but, I've gotten around a little bit, been to Alaska, for example, as I mentioned. One of the things that I always like to do, or liked to do when I came back from Alaska, was go to Lake Winnebago, go to Menominee Park, watch a sunrise, and take off my shoes, take off my socks, roll up my pant legs, and just step into the lake. Just walk in at that swimming beach for a little section there, and just stand there and be. That grounds me to a place that reminds me what community I'm in. It always was a welcome back, being able to just walk into the lake like that. But, more to my day-to-day, my wife. My most important love relationship that I have in life is for my wife and with my wife. Nobody is going to tell me exactly what they feel more than she will. And that's important. That's huge. Big shout out to my love. Love you, Lori. Love you, dear. The bubble lives forever. Little inside joke between us.
What does success look like to you?
Success looks different, and depending upon where you are in life. When I was in my early 20s, quite simply, success was being able to have beer and bacon in my fridge. So that was,
Bruh.
I mean, if I got bacon in my fridge, I've got some of my needs met. I need to eat. And if I got beer in my fridge, I've got some relaxation. I got something to just, sit down, pop a top, and just, I'm not doing anything. It's a little me time.
I'm not even gonna lie. I feel like that is a campaign slogan.
Bacon and beer.
Bacon. Do you have bacon and beer in your fridge?
Would you like to have bacon and beer in your fridge? I would like to help with that.
Yes.
Put that on the beanie with Bosco. Bosco, the podcast dog, sponsored by Bacon and Beer
in your fridge. Facts.
But as we're getting older, though, success looks different. When I was a musician, a working musician, success was a bunch of people on the dance floor dancing to a song that was an original song that we wrote. That these people dancing, they've never heard it before, but they're on the dance floor because, dang, this is danceable. I want to do that. I want to be a part of this. And as a musician, people standing up and enjoying your music, that is success. That's the goal. That's a feeling that's just beyond just about anything that I've ever experienced. My time as a musician, it showed me, it allowed me to understand why some musicians have substance abuse problems. Because, after you get that amazing feeling of performing in front of people that are really digging it, that are really grooving it, that are just, out on the dance floor, and you want to chase that feeling because there is nothing quite like it. And so as a musician, people on the dance floor, that's success. I've worked as a cook, in kitchens before, and, there's success for somebody working in a kitchen. That's an empty plate. When a plate comes back into the dish room and there's nothing on it, and it's scraped clean, that's success. That all that little bits of cheese that dripped off that Philly cheesesteaks, somebody sucked that up because it was good and they didn't want it to be over, and that's success. For me now, just in general in life, what is success? It's back to what grounds me. My wife smiling. If my wife is smiling, I'm doing something right, and I should probably keep doing that because she's feeling good, I'm feeling good, and if we're both feeling good, we're spreading good, and the more good we spread, the more good that comes back to us. So, the biggest sign of success for me right now is a smile from a lady.
What irritates you?
Casual selfishness.
Mhm.
It's a term that I think I've coined, but the idea is just people being self-absorbed to the point where they just don't even realize that they weren't being nice. Casual selfishness can rear its head at a four-way stop. And when you're driving your car, you're coming up to a four-way stop, and you look to the right and you see that there's a car coming up just as you are, and you're both getting closer to the stop, and you're almost both stopping, and then the other guy doesn't even come to a complete stop and just goes. Like, well, that's casual selfishness to me. The person was so considered of their own needs to be where they are that the needs of anybody else to be where they need to go don't matter. It's like, well, I may have to wait for this person, or I could just go because it's me. Somebody that's, on a busy street pulls out without enough space to be safe. If I'm driving up the road and somebody pulls out in front of me and I have to hit my brakes, that's a sign of casual selfishness. This person wasn't aware of their circumstances enough to care. They were just too absorbed with themselves. I need to get down this road. I'm going to go. That's casual selfishness. Grocery store parking lots. You see a cart just sitting out in space in the middle of nowhere. There's a cart corral that's 30 feet away. That cart's just sitting there. Somebody, pushed it out to the car, loaded all their stuff out of the basket into their car, and left the shopping cart just sit there. Casual selfishness. They just didn't care enough about the people around them to put it back. They didn't care that, somebody might bump into that cart with their car and put a ding in it. They didn't care that, the 16-year-old kid who's going to be out there catching carts and pulling them back. Well, he could just go to the cart corral and pull them all back, but now he also has to spend another 10 minutes going out and picking everything up that's way out there. And, especially in bad weather, I mean, that's when the urge to just leave it is all the more because you want to get in your car. You want to go. But that's casual selfishness inside of you. It's just raising its head a little bit. And you just got to tamp that down and say, no, I'm going to push this back. So that way, Cooper at Festival Foods, yeah, he's going to have it a little bit easy. He can just go up to the cart corral, shove them up and push them all in. He doesn't have to, go through the snow that hasn't been plowed yet because we're still in a snow event and get your cart that you left but you didn't want to put back because your time was more valuable than Cooper's. Not. Cooper's a great guy. I mean, he's a real human. I get to say hi to him when I shop at Festival. And, he deals with casual selfishness. And as a custodian on UW Oshkosh campus, I deal with casual selfishness. Somebody, washes their hands. Great. Thank you. Thank you, by the way, for washing your hands when they're in the bathroom. And, they pull a couple paper towels, dry their hands, and without looking, toss it into the can and they miss. Okay. It happens. But if you notice it, bend down and pick up your paper towel. Put it in the bin. It's another instance of, the person that washed their hands and just threw it and didn't worry about where it went to. They weren't consciously being selfish. It wasn't a conscious effort to do it. It was just in the back of their mind that I'm just going to do this and get out of the way and move. That's why I call it casual selfishness. It's not so intentional, but it's just as insidious. And we talked a bit about, putting out love and empathy and care into your community. Things that can kill care is casual selfishness. I'm having a good day and things are going great and I get cut off in traffic. I get thrown for a loop there. I'm just like, hey, no turn signal. What's wrong with you? Come on. I mean, now I'm not in such a loving place. Now I'm mad at this guy in the BMW. My anger might pass on to somebody else. I'm going to try my best to not. But I'm focused on that. So because I'm focused on that, I try to think about it. But not everyone's thinking about the idea of casual selfishness. So when you get punched in the shoulder, you're more likely to punch the shoulder of somebody else. Things go on. You can spread love, or you can be selfish. And being casually selfish, impedes the love in our community. And that's a pet peeve. I could probably go on with more examples, but I think you get the gist of it, right?
Yes. And actually, I like the term. I think this is a good term.
Yeah, it's it's descriptive enough on its own, but when you start to flesh it out, it can be impactful. At least I hope so. Someone that may have never heard the sound of my voice before, if they take anything away from this, other than, vote for me if you're in my district, is the concept of casual selfishness. When you come up to that four-way stop and you see the car on the left, to your left, and you both get there at the exact same time, let the person to your left go. That's what the rules say, is you're supposed to let the person to the left go. And, society works on social contracts that are sometimes written and explicit and sometimes not. Traffic laws are kind of explicit because, for a reason. So, just yield to the left. Let that guy go.
What scares you?
An ill-informed mob. People who, as a group, have this mindset, and then we're kind of leaning back into the idea of like alternative facts. This specific example, January 6th. There was this mob of people in Washington, D.C., who some of the participants knew full well the facts that, there wasn't that many votes for DJT. But there were some folks that really felt that there was a problem. And that's because, they'd been misled, by these alternative facts. And this large group of people were ill-informed is a nice way of putting it. They were lied to, they believed this thing, and they acted violently. That's spooky. When you mention the idea of the societal contract that we live in and live under, people using physical force to try to get what they want. That's scary. Along the same lines, someone that is scared, that has a firearm on them. Oh, that's scary. That goes from everyone to, from a homeowner who sees something on the front yard and front lawn that looks a little sketchy, and, they grab the pistol to make sure they're safe, but they're scared. They're scared and holding deadly force. That's a scary proposition. If somebody was out just walking their dog and they stopped in front of, this person's yard, and this person had to be inside looking out. Who's that on my front yard? What are they doing? What are they doing? Oh, this can't be good. Nobody's doing that. That person is potentially deadly to another. It's same with our police forces. This is a large group of people who are running around with a sidearm. Most of the time, it's a good idea that they have it. But sometimes, officers get spooked. And, there's nothing more dangerous than a spooked officer, because a spooked officer, well, officers in general, they're used to being able to, give orders, get out of the car, put your hands on the hood. And those are like, putting your hands on the hood when you get out of the car. That's for their safety, so that way they can see your hands, or you're not going to be a threat to them. But if they're already afraid and their hand is already on the butt of that pistol, somebody not really thinking, their hands are sitting on the hood, and their cell phone makes a noise, or it's on vibrate, and they feel their phone vibrating, so they reach into their pocket. Well, now you got somebody who's scared. Their hand is already on their gun. That frightens me. It's one of the reasons why I question whether general patrol officers should be carrying lethal force at all times. Or maybe it just should be put in a different position. There was an incident in our collective memory of an officer, reaching for, or she had claimed she reached for her taser and yelled, "Taser, taser, taser," and pulled the trigger on her gun, because that was the thing that was most accessible to her. It was right on her right hip, right hand dominant. She reached down with the right hand, or dominant hand, grabbed the first tool that she had. It was a gun. She wanted to use her taser. I do firmly believe when she yelled, "Taser, taser, taser," she thought she had it in her hands. That's what she had. But, an officer's training makes some things just be second nature, and instantly reaching for the gun because she was afraid, because this person looked like they might be doing something dangerous, had fear for her life and others, and pulled the trigger. That's scary. That I find very scary. And that's a hugely complicated issue. guns in general, complicated.
Facts.
You know, police forces and their practices, really complicated issue. And we've got a lot of conversations that we need to have, we as a society, I mean, to have to alleviate some of the potential harm of these scary situations.
What recharges your soul?
Couple, we're going to talk a little bit more about food. I know you always do, but having spent a lot of time, working in kitchens, what really recharges me is a damn good meal. Especially when I was working in food service, going out to eat and having somebody else cook for me was such a great thing. It just completely, literally filled me up and just, helped fill my soul. It's different when you go to McDonald's, you get a couple of cheeseburgers because you're hungry and it's good. It's comfort food, but when you hear about a special at Gardina's, they got a seared scallop special. You go down there and you get that seared scallop special, and it's cooked perfectly. It's cooked with love. That recharges. In cooking for others, also charges me up. If you're going to have a big event, you got 25 friends that are gathering for a Super Bowl party, and everyone's bringing some food over as a potluck. Bringing over my version of my great grandfather's chili. I know that's good. That's good times right there. I get to share, this bit of myself, through my cooking, through my interpretation of someone's recipe. That fills me. It fills me more than eating the chili myself. And and on that, when cooking the chili or cooking anything else, cooking with someone is fantastic. It's you can have this little dance working in a small space, be it a commercial kitchen or your home kitchen. When you're cooking with somebody, and you're firing all cylinders in a commercial kitchen, man, that's great. When you got tickets coming in every 2-3 minutes, and you're putting tickets out every 2-3 minutes, and you keep it up, and you're holding it up, and everything's going out. That's wonderful. But like cooking at home, cooking at home with my wife, I love it. I love cooking with my wife. She's never worked in commercial kitchens and was never much of a cook, before, her and I started dating. But dang, that woman can cut mushrooms into sand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I absolutely adore the time when we're able to, have 3 hours to, grab some fresh produce out of the fridge, grab out, maybe a nice set of scallops or a nice New York strip. I'll be working on this part of it. She'll be working on that part of it. And we're kind of reaching over each other a little bit, coming behind. And, that's good stuff here. That's quality time with human beings, is cooking together. It's one of my favorite things of all time.
How do you define love?
Love is a form of care. And, care is providing comfort. Care is a good meal. Care is, did you remember to grab your jacket? It's going to be colder later. Care is, do you need me to wash those gloves? So I know you were shoveling snow yesterday, and they're probably a little sweaty and might be a little bit more comfortable. I put them in the wash. I'm about to dual load. That's, the services, the things you can do for another person are expressions of love. Verbalizing love isn't always enough. The song More Than Words, sometimes you just got to show it. You got to act. And the ultimate expressions of love to me are always actions. Mother Teresa caring for the sick. That was an act of love. Martin Luther King and John Lewis marching across the Pettus Bridge. That was an act of love. That was not an act of defiance. That was an act of love for the country as a whole, for the Black community specifically, for workers directly. I mean, those are acts of love. Acts of love aren't always roses and chocolates. Sometimes an act of love is picking up that sledgehammer and that pickaxe and hitting the Berlin Wall. Those Germans that knocked down that wall physically. Every hammer blow is an act of love. Love is a complicated thing, and it can look messy, and it is a lot of times. But for me, love really is, it's about the actions. You can say you care about someone, or you can hold the door just a little bit longer. Hey, let me just show you. Back to beer and bacon in the fridge. That when I'm picking out some beer for myself, well, my lady doesn't like IPAs, so I'm not going to only buy IPA. She likes beer too. Oh, I'm gonna pick up a little bit of that Point Snow Pilot pistachio ale. That's some good stuff. She really likes it. I'm gonna make sure we got some. I don't necessarily like it so much myself, but she really does. I'm gonna make sure I pick it up. Help show love, show care. It's buying a 6-pack of Point beer is a little bit easier than swinging a hammer on the Berlin Wall, but both are acts of love.
Yes. What is the most memorable life lesson you've learned from a parent, guardian, or mentor?
The simplest lesson, and it can be applied across every aspect of life, is to whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your abilities. Because if you do it to the best of your abilities, you can never be disappointed in yourself for what you did. So, if I'm making that grilled cheese sandwich, make it the best grilled cheese sandwich that I can make for you today. If I'm cleaning a bathroom, I'm going to make sure that bathroom is really clean. I'm not in that way, on the surface, the idea of like, well, if my boss comes in afterwards and checks on me, it's clean and yeah, you're good. Well, also, it's a point of personal pride to do a good job. So when you do a good job, when you do your best in everything that you can do, later on down, 10 minutes, 10 years down the road, you're not looking back on this thing that you did and just kind of like, man, I really wish I would have done this or that. I mean, those things are going to happen. But if you're doing the best you could at the time with the knowledge that you had at the time, you can never really truly be disappointed in yourself. I mean, you can think, geez, if I would have known this, I could have done this better. Yeah. But you're not necessarily going to be disappointed in yourself for not knowing something. If you're ignorant of something, of some fact, and you acted accordingly, down the road, you're not necessarily going to be mad at yourself for your decision. You're going to be mad at yourself for maybe not having the right information. But if you did the best that you could with the information that you had and the skills that you had at the time, the tools that you had at the time, if you did the best you could, you're not going to be mad at yourself. You're not going to be disappointed in yourself. You're not going to beat yourself up about something. It's going to put you in a better headspace going forward in life. It's going to, if you're not disappointed in yourself, you're able to accept love. You're able to express empathy better. So doing your best in all things is the lessons that I learned from pretty much every person that has taught me life lessons. It just kind of, it combines into this concept for me. That's just always the best advice, is do your best. And working in a kitchen, working with a chef, do your best to saute those mushrooms and onions. It's going to be better. You're not going to be mad at yourself if you burn them because you looked away. But now I'm kind of getting into the weeds of that idea. But that's it. Is just when you do your best, you're never going to be disappointed in what you did.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. We're on to the next segment. Next segment is called Word Association. Word association is where I'm going to say some words and you're going to tell us what comes to your mind. And we have a tradition here at the Kosh. We always start with the same word. It is the word of love. It is the word of unity. It is the word of community. It is the word that brings us all together. And for you, maybe it's the word of love. And that word is food.
Tacos.
Oh, yes.
Tacos are love. Tacos are love in a hard, soft tortilla. Tacos of any kind. If you made a taco, I am going to want to eat it. The idea of eating beef tongue initially kind of sounds I don't know if I want to eat that. Somebody made a beef tongue taco. Oh, yes, please. Yeah, hand that over. Tacos don't have to be necessarily traditionally Mexican. I like taking just about any kind of leftover that I have at the house and just slapping it into some street tacos. Did a beef roast with some carrots and potatoes. The next day, heat it all up, throw it onto a tortilla. Ah, there we go. Soft shell beef roast tacos. That's my food of all time love is tacos. My first job actually working for somebody other than family members of the little old lady down the street, and actually paying taxes, was working at the original Taco John's here in Oshkosh when it was on Jackson Street where Quick Trip is now.
Okay. I subscribe to this same philosophy of yours. Taco is happiness.
Mm-hmm. There's a meme that went around that whenever I see it, I share it. It's kind of a little funny, but it's right on it though. Tacos are love, and the meme actually is don't be afraid of falling apart. Tacos fall apart, we still love them.
Facts. Yes, we do. Tacos make me happy.
Yeah. And, in Oshkosh right now, we're blessed with a lot of good options.
We do have good taco options.
Yeah.
We'll
get into those, I think, in a shout out later. But yeah, it's one of the things I love.
I would like Diablo's tacos trucks to spend a little more time in the Kosh, because Diablo's, to me, they are fire.
They are really, really, really good.
They are really good.
Yeah, when they're at that the new Shell station on Jackson Street for quite a while. Oh, I mean, I was digging the heck out of those. But yeah, they opened up their location in the mall, and so they're stretched a little bit more thin. So they're not coming to Oshkosh as much as they used to.
Right. Okay. Cocktails or beer?
Short answer, yes. More specific as well. Don't forget the wine. But generally speaking, I go for beer. I like a glass of Chardonnay after a dinner. It's kind of like a dessert kind of idea for me. I don't have a big sweet tooth, but little sip of wine after a meal is great. But for me, and if I'm going to sit back and have an alcoholic beverage or two, I'm having a beer. I'm having an IPA more often than not. Doesn't matter what season, an IPA is always good. Like I mentioned, my wife doesn't so much like them. She calls them icky poopy ale.
Bruh.
But once again, also Oshkosh. We've got a lot of great options. We've got new breweries popping up that are really making their mark. And Fratello's, Fox River Brewing Company was kind of like the standard bearer official beginning of the microbrew and craft brew movement here in town, and they're still cranking out good stuff. You got Bare Bones that are making good stuff. Fifth Ward making great beer. McFleshman's out of Appleton. They make some fantastic beers, and being able to get McFleshman's at grocery stores here in Oshkosh now is just wonderful. It's a good day when I go to the grocery store and I get to come home with a McFleshman's variety pack.
Nice.
Yeah. There's an IPA in there. There's an amber in there. They've got a seasonal beer that's in there. A little bit of variety, always a great thing. Yeah. I mean, want a beer? Yes, please.
Shop local.
We got a lot of great options for local shopping, but I'll focus, for the sake of this conversation right now, on a couple of our local grocery options that are right here downtown and in Oshkosh. And the Oshkosh Food Co-op is a great, fantastic, new to the area kind of concept. It's a not for profit, and they're bringing in a lot, some unique items, things that you're not seeing in every grocery store. They're focusing on local products. So a lot of our local breweries are in there. Not sure if I saw Sturgeon Spirits beverages there yet, but
I'm not sure, but I know. Well, I'm not sure.
But on the same lines as the food co-op, Wagner Market right on Main Street. They went up before co-op opened up, and I never really knew before they opened how fantastic it is to actually have some food options, non-fast food, non-gas station convenience store, grab and go stuff, some actual good quality products, right in the heart of downtown. I live really close to downtown. So being able to, I don't even need to hop in the car. I can just, throw a shoulder bag over my shoulder, run down to Wagner Market. I know I can get the bell peppers that I need for the stuffed peppers I want to do tonight. and, maybe pick up an icky poopy ale for myself. Yeah. Yeah.
Bruh.
Chef Mike does a fantastic job of keeping their beer selection in just, some of the rarest form that you're going to find around, period. Their deli options are great. I've got a recipe for lasagna that I like to cook myself, for people, but heck, grabbing the lasagna out of the deli case at Wagner Market is fantabulous. So, shopping local, there's options for everything, but, I tend to focus a lot on food.
You do have a theme.
Yeah. And I don't wear tight fitting shirts for very much that same reason. I enjoy that theme.
I'm with you. I support your theme, and I'm about that theme life. Okay. Concert.
As when I was a working musician, concerts were a work day. So it was a little bit different for me when I was actively working, because as a working bass player, if I'm at a performance of somebody else, I'm still working. I'm looking at the bass player's fingers. How is he doing it? What's he doing? How's he interacting with the guitar player and the drummers? So when I think about concerts that I was able to go to see and just enjoy, generally speaking, it has to be outside of the range when I was an active working musician. And one of the first concerts that I went to, and the very first time I went to the Marcus Amphitheater on the Summerfest grounds in Milwaukee, was to see Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh,
yeah. Weird Al wasn't actually officially on the bill when I went to that concert. My father actually won tickets to go see the Monkees on a reunion tour. And that's what I thought I was going to see, was to see the Monkees.
right.
The Monkees were on repeats on the local channel 32 at that time. So I knew about them. They're funny and they're fun. And they do music too. Cool. But listed on the ticket was the opener was REO Speedwagon. That was on the ticket. And, to think I was maybe like 12 years old. 12-year-old me suddenly sees Weird Al walking out, and oh my God, I was just blown away. And the show that man put on, okay, his stuff is funny, but there's a lot of serious musicianship and stagecraft involved in a Weird Al Yankovic show.
Al is a performer.
Hell yeah. The guy was doing costume changes mid-set. At one point, he ducked behind the drum riser for what seemed like 12 seconds, and he came out in the full Talking Heads wide-shouldered suit from the Stop Making Sense idea that David Byrne was wearing. And it was hilarious because the shoulder pads were way oversized. And, it's Marcus Amphitheater, and, he's a performer. He knows he's playing to the back row. So his arm gestures were all over, waving and wild. And it was just so much fun. It was one of the things that later in life that I look back on as like, what motivated me to be a musician? Part of it is Weird Al. My band, we didn't do a lot of funny stuff. We had a little bit of, on stage banter in between songs that could be considered funny if,
right.
You agreed with our sense of humor, and not everyone did. But yeah.
I think people sleep on Weird Al.
I know.
Right? Because here's the funny thing. You're not the first Kosh guest to mention Weird Al. And I have a series of friends who they love Weird Al. Like one of their favorite performers growing up. Mm-hmm. Don't sleep on Weird Al.
Yeah. Like a Surgeon is technically a musically correct song, but it's funny. But yeah, coming into the more modern era, last concert that I went to that I was really excited for was just before a pandemic lockdown here in town at Omaro's, was a concert called Racket Fest. And at Racket Fest, there was all sorts of great local bands from years past. And the one that I was just super excited to see was to see Something Phonic up on stage again, playing the songs that I remember. Because Something Phonic, now they came about right at the tail end of me working in the band Serendipity. So I saw them in the cusp, in that era where I'm still working and watching what Keith, their bass player, was doing, but then I was done shortly thereafter, and then I was able to just enjoy it, and going to that show and hearing songs like, oh, I remember this one, and this one too, oh my God, I haven't heard this one since, wow, and just being able to get out there on the dance floor and share that love with those guys, and actually be dancing to something that I had so many fond memories of, from years ago, and was able to express it again with a lot of like-minded people. So there was a lot of people, there from the local bands, performing or not. And, it was great to see a lot of those faces again. So, the music scene, in Oshkosh circa, 96 to like 2002. I mean, that's my prime time when I was involved, and just seeing all those people was great, and seeing specifically Something Phonic. For a period of time, they were absolutely my favorite band on earth. And, that part of that is never going to change.
Okay. Last word.
Yeah.
Diversity.
Okay. Diversity gives perspectives. I self-identified earlier as, white cisgender dude, straight guy. That's a perspective. You're about my age. Now, your experiences in life, not going to be the same as mine. You're a little bit more rich in the melanin. As a black man, your perspective is going to be different from mine. And when diversity is encouraged, your perspective and my perspective gets to work together, and we get to share perspectives. And by sharing perspectives, we can come up together with solutions to problems that we wouldn't be able to come up with without sharing perspectives. So diversity for me is hugely important for the sake of, being able to provide love and care and empathy into the community. We can come up with better solutions if we have more perspectives. And, that goes for race, that goes for income level, that goes for geographic location. When I was lucky enough to have been, working in Denali Park, Alaska, being able to meet young people from Russia who are working in the area. There was quite a lot. I'm guessing there's probably not quite as much anymore, but I picked up a couple of Russian hitchhikers who were hiking back into Denali Park for work as they were coming back from Fairbanks. I was driving back from Fairbanks, saw two people. Generally speaking, in Alaska, hitchhiking was still a thing, and we were in the car together for about an hour, and just talking about life, the universe, and everything. And that's a perspective I never would have been able to have gotten unless the workforce in Denali was that diverse. And I cherish that memory. And, diversity is just so important for that reason. I'm going to learn from a perspective different from my own. And I greatly appreciate it. So anytime diversity is promoted, yep. All for it. Hands up. Yep. I'm there.
Okay. Ready for the next segment?
Absolutely, positively.
The next segment is called the Kosh Hidden Gems. This is your opportunity to share a hidden gem. A hidden gem can be something everybody knows about, but maybe you don't know some specifics about it. Or maybe it's something you don't think many people know about. What's your hidden gem?
And there's so many unique options for hidden gems. Hidden gem, not quite so hidden now that they got their sign up. Tequiza here in Oshkosh.
Oh, yeah. Love them.
Oh,
love them.
Oh, I mean, tacos is love and tequiza is tacos. Tequiza is love.
That equation does math. That math is math.
Exactly. That's a straight fact. There's nothing alternative about that.
You know what's not love? Bosco, the podcast dog, and his squeaky toy. Hey,
I don't know, man. He's chewing on something that's close to food, so that's love.
He's gonna kill this thing in like 30 seconds.
Something perhaps a little bit more hidden, especially to Oshkosh residents. That's a bit of a hidden gem. Up in Appleton, the jerk joint. I'm so mad at myself that when I was there last. I forgot to ask if he had curry goat, but
Fridays.
yeah. I was there on was it Saturday or Sunday? I think it was, and
I've got sad news to report.
they're no longer open on Sundays.
No, they had a fire.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, it just happened.
Oh my God.
It's not a horrible. Well, it's enough.
Yeah.
It'll be a little while. Yeah. Got some challenges there.
Yeah. I mean, I know he was good at smoked meats, but there's a little extreme there.
Well, complications. If I'm correct, the electric smoker, something with the wiring, went awry.
Anytime you're dealing with electricity, there's always that goofy little. It could happen.
So yeah, there's some complications. So I wanted to send them a special shout out to Rod and Faith because
yep.
Yeah, they not only do they nourish me, they are friends.
Oh, well, they made me feel like friends when Lori and I were up there last. I hope they're back up soon. Something back actually though into more in Oshkosh as a bit of a hidden gem, and this one I think is a little bit more hidden, not quite as known. Fat Mama's. Fat Mama's is back,
as the kids would say. It slaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Downtown Oshkosh denizens, we may remember we found it. May remember Fat Mama's when she had the location on Church Street just off of Main,
or when she was like right across from the Scotts. That's when I remember when she first opened.
Oh, I don't think I ever actually was at that location.
Yeah, that's when they first started.
All right. Well, now Fat Mama's is open on Ohio Street. And, if you blink when you drive by, you miss it. So it is almost hidden. You kind of almost have to know it's there. So, yeah, I'd encourage you, anybody that's got a smartphone and is hungry, grab the Google machine on your phone and type in Fat Mama's Oshkosh. It'll get you there.
Not the Google machine.
Yeah. Not the Google machine?
No, it's just the terminology, the Google machine that makes us dated.
Well, yeah. I'm pushing 50 with a really short pencil, and the pencils in the grinder getting shorter every day. So I'm just going to go ahead and embrace it because, hey, embracing it got me to Fat Mama's last night. I had an Italian beef last night that I hadn't had in a long time. That was, and that hit the spot.
Yes, I got to catch up with her. She has an episode.
I did not know that. I missed it.
She has an episode.
I'm going to dig through your back catalog and find that one.
One of the best.
I can believe it.
Started from the bottom, now I'm here.
Yeah.
That is the episode title.
Nice. Gosh, she has such a way of making you feel so damn welcome.
Yeah. She's love.
Yes.
Fat Mama is love.
Yes, she is.
And care.
Yep, that smile, that food. I love in the new location, her making available markers so people can just write on their walls. That's a give and take of the love and being able to see all the love on the walls, and then the love of the food comes out in front of me, and oh yeah,
yes, okay. Well, at this time we're going to take a short commercial break.
Did you know there are children in the Fox Valley in need of hearing aids, but their parents struggle to provide them because of lack of insurance or high copays? I am Juliette Sturkins, audiologist and board member of Here in the Fox Cities, and proud that this small local nonprofit organization has helped fund hearing aids for some 30 kids. Your donation would help more children hear. Visit hereinthefoxcities.org to learn more and to see their smiles. Every child deserves to hear.
We are back, and it is time. You know what? I keep saying I'm going to do this, but I totally need to make this happen. I got to find some music for what is my favorite segment on the Kosh, and that segment is story time. That is the
story.
Oh,
Tell me
maybe
the story and tell me how it goes.
if you want to put that into a bass line, I will make that what we play before story time. I am about that life. A Kosh original.
I think I can make that line. I actually think I've got one in my pocket, so to speak. Bass player joke there.
So at this time, what story time is this is where our guest has an opportunity to tell the Kosh listeners a story. That story can be about absolutely anything. So, Bob,
Yeah.
what's your story?
All right, my story. I'm going to go back to Alaska for my story here. I came to Alaska kind of in a goofy fashion. I found myself suddenly unemployed, which is something that can happen to folks from time to time. And I knew that my current living situation was not going to be lasting very much longer as an unemployed person. My job prospects were not looking very good. I was figuring I'm probably not going to be able to find something that was going to provide for the apartment that I was currently living in. It was a little bit more than I was probably going to be able to do. So preemptively, I just started boxing stuff up. I'm putting out job applications, doing interviews, but I know, I'm probably going to end up in a kitchen, and in kitchens, you don't make a pile of money. A lot of times you do it for the love, and well, there I was. So as I'm boxing stuff up, I came across the phone number of an old friend that I hadn't seen in a while. And well, he lived in Alaska, and I wasn't sure how much longer I was going to be able to have a cell phone to be able to call him. So I figured I'm going to go ahead and give him a call. And well, he had something unique in the works. He was going to be taking over a tree farm, a nursery. And you needed some more workers, and workers in Alaska traditionally still it's kind of hard to come by. If you live in Alaska and you've been there for a few years, you've established residency. Now you have access to the annual PFD, the permanent fund dividend, and that's a lot of people refer to it as the oil check. In Alaska, the oil companies, they pay the state of Alaska for the oil they ship out. They don't pay full price for it, but they pay for it. And the state of Alaska, when that was set up, instead of just putting that into state coffers, they disperse it. So every year, everyone gets a PFD check. And that can be $1,500. Just boom, here you go. Now, for somebody that lives on a homestead, they didn't pay for the property. They just walked out into the woods and put a couple stakes in the ground, says, I live here now. And the state says, okay, all yours. For somebody that, doesn't have a mortgage, they're avid hunter, fishermen, they're chopping wood, they don't really need work. So, workers are at a premium. And here I am, I'm in Oshkosh. A friend in Oshkosh, from Oshkosh, is in Alaska saying, I need a worker. I will front you a plane ticket if you get here and work at the tree farm. So I did. Got out there, worked there for a week, and then his deal fell through. And I'm looking for work in Alaska, which I was really nervous about, but because I didn't know that, if you're willing to work, you've got work in Alaska, and the Wisconsin work ethic is known in Alaska. I never really considered myself to be, had the best work ethic, but then I got to Alaska and realized, the Wisconsin work ethic is a thing. So I ended up getting hooked up with a kitchen job at a place called Denali Air. Now this is it's a private airstrip, gravel airstrip. Their business was grabbing tourists, throwing them into an airplane, and flying around Denali, at the time known as Mount McKinley, but now back to the native Athabascan name of Denali, which translates to English as the Great One, tallest mountain in North America. It's a twin peak kind of setup. It's really, really cool. But to run that business, they had about, depending on the time of year, between like 35 and 50 people who lived on the premises, and they provided food. So there was a kitchen, there was a kitchen boss, and I'm coming in as the kitchen assistant. And well, the kitchen boss was Chef Wiley Flynn. Now that's a name that sounds like it's right out of a novel, and boy, was he a character. Now, Wiley was an obese, diabetic, black Southern queen of a man.
Wait a minute. In Alaska?
Yes, exactly. In
Okay.
Alaska,
I am fascinated.
yes, exactly. In Alaska, I met a black Southern queen. I mean, this man was so obviously a gay man that just looking at him, if anyone had any homophobic tendencies whatsoever, they would look at him and and you could see it right away. And it would happen once in a while. And, Wiley, being the only black man within about 500 miles of another, he reveled in it. He enjoyed it. He enjoyed making people uncomfortable. And, and anyone who had a problem with the word cracker got over it pretty damn quick.
Bruh.
Yeah. He had fun with it. He was an amazing man, wonderful, caring man. Showed a lot of love through food, feeding people in camp. We didn't feed tourists. We fed our coworkers. So these are people that you see day in, day out. Like I say, living in camp, we lived along this private airstrip. Our individual cabins were glorified Fleet Farm prefab tool sheds. Had a bed, had a desk, had an outlet for your laptop, and a heater. So, it was small accommodations, and we refer to it as living in camp. Now, Wiley would go into Fairbanks once a week for the weekly food run. And going into town, that's a 2-hour drive. So his day is shot. He ain't doing anything else, in camp for food. And so that was the day that I was left on my own to feed everybody. And my instructions always were really quite simple. Run every leftover you can. If you can't run the leftover, throw it out, but run it. And, just basically to make room for the new stock that's coming in. And, my day off was the day previous. So I had like 24 hours away because I would leave camp and go into Nenana, another little town nearby. Actually, it's halfway between Denali and Fairbanks. So I would come back into camp while he's already gone. And so I would just go through the fridge and freezers and okay, what do I got to run? What I got to use? And one day I come into camp and I see a pile of sweet potatoes in the fridge. They're already baked, they're cooked sweet potatoes. And as I'm digging around a little bit more, I find a couple of frozen pie crusts. I've heard of sweet potato pie. I know sweet potato pie. I've had sweet potato pie. Sweet potato pie is delicious.
Bruh.
Facts. Uh-huh. And so I decide, all right, I'm going to make sweet potato pie. How do I make sweet potato pie? I don't know. I've never made sweet potato pie. My understanding is, from when I had it, it's really similar to pumpkin pie, which I've had a lot of pumpkin pie. And when it comes to pumpkin pie and me making it, I've also never made a pumpkin pie. But it's one of the things that my skills in cooking is kind of reverse engineering things based upon flavors. And I pay attention when I'm hearing about techniques, and I haven't had an understanding of how somebody makes a pumpkin pie. So therefore I figured, well, I'll transfer this knowledge from this made up knowledge of how to make a pumpkin pie and how to make a sweet potato pie. So I decided, all right, I'm making sweet potato pies. And, Wiley had this habit of calling back into camp after lunch was over, because, we only did serve lunch and dinner, not breakfast. So he would call and ask, so, what did that cracker put out? And, someone would tell them what I put out for the meal. Okay. What did he say that he was going to do for dinner? And they would tell him. And no, he didn't call me directly. I had a cell phone. He could have called me and he could have asked, but no. That wasn't Wiley's way. Wiley's way was to call and talk to other people. We wanted to talk to the people that he's been showing love to for years. Because, I'm first year. I've never,
Yes, right.
I mean, I'm getting used to these people. I care for them.
He's got his loyalists.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's calling the people that, and quite often the bosses, the people that, bring him in every, year after year to keep cooking for him. And Somebody told him, he says he's making sweet potato pie. Now I hear later on that, he heard, what? That cracker's putting what? What? In my kitchen? Yeah. So, Wisconsin Yankee making sweet potato pies in this other black man's kitchen. There could be issues.
You think?
Uh-huh.
I'm already envisioning this.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie. I'm ready for the giggle because I'm I'm giggling already. I already see how this is going.
Well, so I make 2 sweet potato pies. One of them I put out for everybody. The other one I hold in reserve for Wiley. Wiley alone. Wiley's a big man. Wiley can eat a whole pie on his own. He likes to eat a whole pie on his own. He's not supposed to. He's diabetic, but he takes care of himself and monitors his blood sugar. So, all right, I hold one back for Wiley. Now, generally speaking, when Wiley comes back, he comes in and, we load in the coolers, from the trucks, put everything away, and then I, haul off, get cleaned up and come back in, and we sit down and have a planning session of, for the meals for the next week. And he's like, okay, I bought this and this and this, and I'm thinking this and this and this, and what do you think about this? And, he was really interactive with me about what we're doing, because we were cooking together, one of those love things, And, well, this time, Wiley didn't come in with a cooler and getting ready to start putting stuff away. Wiley kicked the door of the cook shack open and walked in 3 big strides and stood in the middle and put his hands on his hips and was just glaring at me. And, well, you don't, but Wiley's glare, it was something, that was you are on notice. Bring it. So I turned around, went to the fridge, and I went up and brought the pie to Wiley. And I held the pie out in my extended hand, and he reached out and pulled it from me and was holding the pie, well, in his left hand. And he's looking at the pie for a second, and he looks at me. He raises his right hand above the pie. He's got his thumb and 2 fingers out in kind of like a bird claw kind of motion. And he takes that bird claw in his hand and puts it right in the middle of the pie, right in the center of the pie. Not touching the crust, he went right for the filling, right in the heart of the pie. He pulled out a little fistful of sweet potato pie filling, stuffed it into his mouth. I see him chewing. And he's still got that glare, and he's looking at me as he's chewing. And his gaze kind of trails off over my right shoulder, and I'm still looking at him. He hasn't said a word, and he's chewing. He kind of, his mannerism, he seemed to relax. He, was no longer this guy with his hands on his hips, looking at this Wisconsin cracker that made a sweet potato pie in a southern black man's kitchen. He didn't have that attitude anymore. Suddenly, it's just kind of gone. It melted away. And he just turned and walked away with the pie. And Wiley's private quarters were at the back of the cook shack, and he just walked back there with the pie and walked into his quarters and pulled the door shut behind him. Well, now I'm on my own. I don't know what the heck's going on. So I go about my, as normal as I can process. All the coolers come in. I load things that need to be in the freezer into the freezer, things that need to be in the fridge into the fridge, get everything put up and make sure all the dishes are put away, make sure the floor is clean. And, then I run to my glorified Fleet Farm tool shed and grab my robe, my towel, and run over to the shower area. And I get cleaned up and walk back into the cook shack. And that's kind of normal for me. I take like about a half hour to quick scrub up after the day, and then come back and sit down with Wiley, and we'll crack a couple of beers. I'll have a Alaskan Amber, do our meal planning, and I come back in. Wiley's not there yet. He's not out. He's still back in his quarters. And he's been back there for like 2 hours now. And I'm a little nervous because, last thing I saw Wiley was chewing that sweet potato pie and walking away. So I go back to his quarters and get to the door and just give it a little, give it a little knock and like, Wiley, are you there? And I hear something. I can't tell if I'm hearing light laughter or crying. They kind of can sound similar if somebody's not trying to be too emotive. And well, that was kind of Wiley's way. I mean, when he wanted you to directly know how he felt, he told you. Otherwise, probably not. So he answers after I knock a second time, and he says, "I'll be out in just a minute. We'll go over. Just hang on." So I go and sit down in the spot where we usually sit. He comes out about 20 minutes later. Yeah, he wasn't laughing. His eyes were a little bit bloodshot. I could tell he was crying. And I'm flummoxed. I don't know what's going on here. I'm like, why are these? Is everything all right? And he's, yeah, I'm okay. I'm all right. Thanks. Okay. Last we were in front of each other, you tried a bite of my pie. And I'm thinking to myself, with that damn bird claw, you reached in the center of my beautiful pie and took a big chunk out of it and walked away. Well, so I asked him, like, well, how'd you like the pie, Wiley? And he just takes a couple more deep breaths and turns and looks at me. We're sitting side by side. And he said, your pie made me need to call my mom. And that is the proudest moment I ever had in food, ever. I made a Southern black man need to call mama with a sweet potato pie. The first time I ever made a sweet potato pie, based upon my understanding of pumpkin pie, which I had never made before. But I gave it to Wiley, and it filled him in ways I didn't expect, didn't intend. Made him want to reach out to mom. And he told me later, yeah, I was on the phone with my mom for about an hour. We hadn't talked in like 3 months. Last time we talked, we had a fight. He had to call mom. Because the sweet potato pie made him think of mama. So, yeah. I'm always going to remember just the time when he's staring daggers at me and just chewing. Staring. And then he looks over my shoulder and walks away. Yeah, that's sharing love.
That has to be one of the greatest story time stories. That was so good. I literally could see this. I could envision everything that happened. That was so good.
Oh, and so was the pie.
Yes. Apparently.
Yeah.
So have you made sweet potato pie since?
Nope. I've not made a single pie since.
This is sad.
I know. I mean, I mentioned I don't have much of a sweet tooth. I make the joke. I don't have a sweet tooth. I have a meat tooth. But I mean, like sitting in my freezer right now at home, I've got a baggie of strawberries and a baggie of rhubarb that I macerated from last season, just waiting for me to buy a frozen pie crust and put them in. But I just haven't done it yet. And I haven't done it, partially because, I haven't made a pie since that sweet potato pie. And I don't think I made many, if any, pies before. So, I'm considering right now I'm batting 1,000. I can only hurt my average by doing another one.
Leave it alone. You might have just got blessed that one day. Leave it alone.
Yeah. But yeah, God rest Wiley's soul, no longer with us. He's one of the reasons why food is love for me, because the love that he showed every day to all us crackers at Denali was palpable. I mean, like on our palate, like literally we're eating it. He's verbally making fun of us and serving us a fine creme brulee. you're in the sticks of Alaska and somebody puts a dang creme brulee right in front of you. Damn. Yeah. That's love.
That's love. That was so good. Okay. All right. So it's time. It is time for the topic of the week. The topic of the week is chosen by our guest 99.9% of the time, and this week is no different.
Nope.
So, Bob, what's our topic of the week?
I'm going to go for something that's a bit heady and, well, both sidesism. Both sides of ism, especially in media. Talking like, CNN, not so much Fox News, is there not so much NBC, although getting more so, the broadcast channels, ABC, NBC, CBS, their newscasts in a lot of the Gannett papers, which we get here in the area, or Northwestern, which is basically an Oshkosh version of the Post Crescent, now that the Northwestern doesn't have offices here, which, Post Crescent is just a local version of USA's Today. And both sidesism. It's this idea that, there are both sides to every story, and we need to cover and talk about both sides. And my biggest argument, in the simplest way that I've ever heard it put against it, is when one person says it's raining outside and the other person says it's not, the job of the reporter is not to tell the story of why this person says it's raining, this person says it's not. The job is to stick your head out the window and find out if it's raining. Both sidesism doesn't do that. It comes back to that idea that we talked earlier about, of not accepting facts and the idea of alternative facts. News media is so often so concerned about not making one side or the other angry at them, so they lose viewers or they lose readers, that they try to toe this line of being balanced. The fair and balanced idea of Fox News laughable. They're not, and that's the other thing. There's this both sidesism, which doesn't really get to the story, but just shows the opinions on both sides of the story. And, then there are, advocacy news outlets. Fox News is an advocacy outlet for political conservatives and people on the right here in the United States of America. Up until very recently, like MSNBC, the cable news channel, they were kind of the Fox News of the left. They only showed things from the left perspective. And, both sidesism and partisan news doesn't really do the American public the justice, doesn't do us a favor. It doesn't help us have a complete understanding, because people end up being locked into specific news outlets. An MSNBC viewer is probably not going to watch Fox, and vice versa. So therefore, two people walking around thinking about the exact same topic, and you've got completely different set of facts and completely different set of conclusions about how to apply the different facts.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, and this also kind of relates to, as a media criticism, the death of local media. I mean, like I talked just now about the Northwestern being a subsidiary of the Post Crescent, which is a subsidiary of USA Today. By losing local newsrooms, more people are paying more attention to national stories. Now, here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, Menasha, Neenah, Appleton, Omro, Fond du Lac, why are we really worried about the southern border? I mean, that's not. I mean, sure, it's a national issue, but something that when news outlets do like a man on the street kind of interview, what's your number one concern? Somebody in Omro saying the southern border, it's like, that's your number one concern. I mean,
bruh, facts.
I mean, shouldn't you be more concerned about what your local school board is doing? I've heard that there has been a a Moms for Liberty group in this area. This is a group of people that on the surface, it sounds like, well, Moms for Liberty, this sounds like a good group, right? Everybody loves their mother. Everybody loves liberty. Well, the Moms for Liberty, they're about going into school districts and, taking away books that they find offensive. They find offensive things that deal with LGBTQIA folks, anything that deals with that community. You should be more concerned that your child is not going to have access to knowledge that is going to help them be more empathetic and more caring the communities in the world. But instead, you're worried about people crossing the border in Texas who really are probably not going to be making it up here unless somebody throws them on a bus and ships them to Milwaukee and then they get spread out. I mean, both sidesism in media and partisanship in media, it just doesn't do us favors. If we could, the social media has the potential to refocus people on more local issues, but we're not really using it for that. Now, like a rare exception, Chris Larson recently been on the Kosh here. He talked a lot about local issues, and in his campaign, he's reaching out on social media, talking about these local issues, and some of the things that he's bringing up, people aren't really, they weren't paying attention to at all. Somebody that lives, on Grove Street and has been there for 25 years, they're not really focused on housing in Oshkosh for the poor and underprivileged. They're not really worried about, the homeless people. But it's right here in our community. We should be focused on that. We can do something about that. These are things that we can affect the change of. If we have more knowledge about it, we know why to be motivated to make these changes. But if we're focused on the southern border, we're not focusing on helping someone like my friend Cheryl, who a couple winters back succumbed to the elements while homeless. If we weren't so focused on the next big shiny thing that everybody in the nation is paying attention to, if we would have been focused on our local homeless population, my friend Cheryl might be here. And
R.I.P. Cheryl, I know her.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, one of
she was wonderful.
Yeah, one of the most wonderful humans that I've met, and I'm proud to bring up her memory. I'm glad you know her too, because she was wonderful.
Well, for a long time,
and
lots of libations.
Yeah, and it's people like that end up being a part of our homeless community. We can focus on housing. We can focus on our homeless people and make that change. Helping to do that, helping us to see the change that needs to be made, traditionally is the job of the media. Traditionally the job of the local media that we don't have enough of anymore. Miles McGuire recently, stopped doing his independent journalism. That's, we're worse off for his retirement. I understand his need to retire. You can't keep beating your head against the wall for, every decade of your life. And, Miles has done a lot of that for a long time, and I really appreciated it. And, now we don't have a lot of that. We don't have that local media. We're inundated with media that's going to say, this guy says it's raining and this guy says it doesn't. News at 10. And, the other media that says, how dare they say it's not raining? My goodness, my sidewalk's wet and I'm hearing water drip down the spouts. We're not served well by our media landscape today. And that has some direct consequences. As an elected official, perhaps I will have a bully pulpit and be able to speak, and some more people listen, so we can talk about the issues like are homeless, who are pushed out of apartments because they can no longer afford the rent, because one large landowner or property owner conglomerate keeps buying up houses, which artificially inflates the price of houses. So that keeps people from buying houses. So they keep them in a rental cycle, which keeps them from being able to save money to buy a house. Renting quite often, can be more expensive than a mortgage.
Oh, no, it is.
And yeah,
just flat out to me. I mean, right now, I think it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm locked into a spot. I'm renting. I'm locked into a spot with rent that is much lower than the people around me. And on one side of my house, of my property where I live, I've got a homeowner, and on the other side, I've got a renter, and then it's all college rentals, with few exceptions in between me and the rest of campus. That's just so much more expensive. Then, anyway, both sides' his own media criticisms and housing. It seems like a convoluted bit. I kind of tried to draw a through line there, and that's something we should be spending more time on. So both sides-ism sucks. Boo. Strictly partisan media sucks. Boo.
Facts. Okay. Well, before we wrap up this subject, I want to give you an opportunity. Is there any last things you want to share about this subject, or is there any last things you'd like to share about your campaign?
Well, campaign mode on the subject. I think I kind of exhausted, the simple through line. To get more into housing specifically, we're going to have to start talking numbers, and I can hear people wanting to snooze off even saying the word numbers. So let's kind of put that aside, and just to reiterate, my reason for my candidacy is to bring perspective to the county board, to bring more diversity to the county board. It's all well and good to have folks that are established and have been traditionally successful, in those positions, but other people need to be represented. And one of the people that I will be representing when I'm on the board is our friend Cheryl, and I intend to do that by seeing if there's something at the county level we can do to help our unhoused compatriots and friends and neighbors.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to start wrapping up this episode. All right, Kosh listeners, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us your minds and ears. Thank you for caring about another member who lives in our community, who's making a difference, who wants to make a difference, who's out here campaigning, which is more than most of us would be willing to do. Facts.
It's there's a little bit more to it than people understand.
Facts.
More than I understood when I agreed to do it.
We are a work in progress. We are constantly trying to get better, and I'm trying to make one of the best podcasts in all of Wisconsin here at the Kosh, and I can't do it alone. I need your help. A couple of things I need you to do. Hey, if you'd like to be a guest, let me know. If you got any suggestions, let me know. If you'd like to suggest a guest, let me know. Love to have you. And you can reach out to us at askthekosh@gmail.com. Once again, askthekosh@gmail.com. All right, next. What I also need you to do is part of this, let's call it the trip to greatness. Part of our transition and trip to greatness means that I need you, while you're listening to the Kosh right now, is take a moment and hit the subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. Also, if you didn't know, we actually do have a YouTube channel at the Kosh. Go there and subscribe. I need some YouTube subscribers.
I didn't know that was there.
It is there. So hit that too. But at the end of the day, what I'm really trying to do is increase our analytics. So improved analytics gets us in front of more eyes and ears so more people can learn about the Kosh. Ooh, and you know what's even better? Leave us a review. A review really makes a lot of difference. So
hitting that subscribe button and leaving a review, that's like hitting the love button.
Is
spread the love, share the love.
Facts. Hey, the Kosh gives love. We would like you to give some love back. Also, right now, I just want to take a quick moment and say, this episode of the Kosh is sponsored by our friends over at Sturgeon Spirits Craft Distilleries, the Kosh's newest tradition. And a big shout out to that team over there. it is the weekend. So what that means is I'm going to go to church and spend a little time there and have a the Kosh cocktail. And if you didn't know, the Kosh has made it to the craft cocktail list. It is yummy. It is tasty. Ask for one. You will not regret it. Facts.
Excellent.
Okay. So at this time, it is that time of the show, and that is it is shout out time. So
Yeah.
Bob, what do you got?
Couple of shout outs. One mentioned earlier, Reptile Palace. Beth and Clint over at the Reptile Palace on High Street.
Facts.
Here in town. Still making room in the Kosh here for live music. Live music has been in that physical location for decades, and they are continuing that tradition. They've expanded on it. Back when Serendipity was working, we would go in and to the it wasn't Reptile Palace at the time. It was Lizard Lounge.
Yep.
And
I go back that far.
Yeah, most of us just refer to it as the lounge. And, when there was a live band at the lounge, you set up on the floor in the front and you just played and smiled and people heard you. And they didn't always see you because if you had enough of a crowd, people that were like two people back didn't see. But, Beth and Clint, they went the extra mile. They actually put in a stage. That's actually really nice. Gets you high enough up to be able to see the back of the room. The back of the room gets to see you. Clint has done an amazing job of setting up the live sound in a really uniquely challenging environment. Every band that I've ever seen there since Clint has really, worked on it, sounds fantastic. Droids Attack, sound amazing at the Reptile Palace. Lords of the Trident, one of the most fun heavy metal outfits I've ever seen. Heavy metal and fun, don't always seem to go to hand in hand, but man, it's like a smile, happy heavy metal. Just being able to see Pat McDonald still touring through and coming to Oshkosh. First time I saw Pat McDonald was at the lounge, and he still makes it through and pops into the Reptile Palace. So, big shout out to Reptile Palace,
Big shout out to them.
Much love. Another newer shout out. I want to give props to the new restaurant Mad Chicken, and in the old Hardee's location on Jackson Street. Oh damn! That I would have put that in hidden gems if they would have been a little bit harder to find. It's pretty hard to miss if you're going down Jackson Street. Suddenly the Hardee's, the outside is painted black. That's different, and so they're not so hidden. But oh my God, their food is so good.
It is. The chicken's quality.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's pretty much all of their chicken is based off of like a chicken tender idea. And we're not talking just your little nuggets. They're actually a good size. And their breading is really, 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 really fantastic. And they got a good selection of sauces.
I go traditional.
Not traditional.
Yeah. They're because here's my thing. They're not those little winglets.
Yeah, no.
No, it's wang.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. I love getting the basket of tenders. Because, I've actually found that, if I overbuy and eat more than I can have it in one sitting, well, then I got some leftover love there. They crisp up really good in my countertop rotisserie or convection oven. So, nice shout out to Mad Chicken. Welcome addition to the Oshkosh food scene.
I want to go back and just talk about Reptile for a quick second and your shout out. And all I want to say is, if you've never been to Reptile is what I call the most equal opportunity libations experience in the Kosh.
Oh, yeah.
That joint, they don't, any and everyone's there. You never know what you're going to get. And it's always, the people are beautiful. They're friendly. It's wonderful. Like, I literally have been there at times where there's a dude with a choker on and spiked hair, somebody in a tuxedo and a truck driver.
Yep.
And everybody's having their cocktails, laughing their butts off and just having great conversation. Like Reptile, you don't know what you're going to get, but it's all family.
But you're always going to enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've never walked out of the Reptile Palace mad that I went in.
No. Never disappointed.
And yeah, that's a tradition that Beth and Clint have really carried on. Going down to the lounge years ago, you'll on my left would be an Oshkosh truck worker, because it was truck at that time, and on my right would be the head of the poli-sci department on UW Oshkosh campus, and everybody was just having a good time, sipping some drinks and shooting a breeze.
Yep.
And yeah, the tradition continues. Reptile Palace. Hell
Yes,
yeah.
no doubt. All right. Well, let me get my shout outs going here real quick. And so this week, my shout outs go to I want to send a shout out to my partner in crime at my gig, Andy Anam. Andy holds me down, and we've just been doing some really good stuff at my gig. And it's nice when you have a good partner in crime to
Always
do those things with. I want to give a shout out to Haley Tempest. Haley Tempest used to be a TV personality, I think TV news personality, but now she does radio, and I got an opportunity to be on one of the radio shows. I can't remember, but I think it's on WBAY. And it was just cool. She was just so cool, so friendly, so welcoming, took all the nerves out of the experience, and just like was wonderful.
much like you do for your guests here on the Kosh Kidibber.
Oh yeah, well, that's the vibe of the space. This is the Kosh, baby. We can't be freaking people out. That's not how that works.
No.
All right. Want to send a shout out to the male mental health meeting, Black male mental health meeting I got to be participate in. That was powerful. And there, for so many reasons, but for other reasons, I don't even want to go into it. I just want to say for everyone that did partake in it, thank you. Thank you for showing up. And the power that was in that room, I can't even explain it. To my fraternity brothers, I came back last weekend from what we call district conference. So had the brothers at Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated in the house in Green Bay. Loved it. To my SUL brothers, which is my particular chapter here in the region. Love y'all. You already know. To the Building for Kids team. Like, if you don't know about the Building for Kids in Appleton, that is one wonderful organization / resource for the community, especially for our young people. If you got young kids, you take them to the Building for Kids. You will not regret that. I promise you. And there is no barriers. So if you don't think you can afford it, they have the resources in place to allow you and your family to enjoy it. So
that sounds good.
Oh, it's beyond good. I'm telling you, it's fantastic. So, and they got a team there that truly cares and does the research and just does it better than like almost any other organization I've seen, just how they do the things. And then last but not least, always, I thank my wife once again for allowing me to podcast in our house on the regular basis that she does.
Oh yeah, thank you. Happy spouse, happy house, and this definitely feels like a happy home.
It is a happy home, and a happy home that has podcasting in it.
Yay, happy podcast.
Facts. All right, so Bob, we got one last thing left to do, and that is this. You got 3 choices. The 3 choices are this. Option one, you have an opportunity to tell us or give some parting words of wisdom to the Kosh listeners. Option 2 would be you can tell us what yourself today would tell your 13-year-old self. Or option C, which is all of the above. I felt like I just jumped between numbers and letters.
That's all right.
It makes sense though.
AB3 works for me, man. I'm good.
There you go.
And basically, yeah, it's kind of all of the above. The parting words of wisdom I'd pass to everyone would be the same thing I'd want to tell myself at 13. I would have been a little better for hearing it, probably a little bit more often. And really that just comes down to how you interact with people in the real world and now in the cyber world is just to realize that we don't really all have the same kind of opportunities as everyone else. And not everyone's going to have an opportunity at a time that they're going to be able to take advantage of it. Talked about how having business owners involved in local governance is a great idea. Well, those local business owners, if they started the business themselves, they were able to, they had an opportunity come up, and at the time that the opportunity happened, they were able to jump at it and make it happen. That's, someone like myself who doesn't come from a family of many means, were I to wanting to go into the restaurant industry as an owner, I would have needed to have some financial backing. And I know it has happened for some folks who, don't come from, moneyed families. They lucked into meeting the right person at the right time, who had the right amount of cash and was ready to invest and took advantage of it. And that's great. And that's wonderful. But, not everybody gets those opportunities. So we all in society end up in different places. And no one is better or worse because of how they've handled their opportunities. There's a bit of a cliche that's out there, and it's kind of sneered at now even a little bit. But I recall President Obama being the first person to say it on a national stage, and I really appreciated it. You alluded to it earlier. Treat the CEO of a company the same way you would treat the janitor. And the reason you do that is because, well, we're all deserving of respect, love, empathy, and care. But also it's, the CEO isn't just a better person simply because he's had better opportunities that he was able to take advantage of at the time. It kind of leans into, kind of my feelings on the concept of the prosperity doctrine, something that's, that pops around in evangelical Christian situations and communities, is that, if you're a good person, the Lord is going to provide. And therefore, if you're successful, you're more blessed. And by being more blessed, you were more worthy. And, someone that wasn't as blessed, isn't as successful, isn't as worthy. And that is bunk in my mind. Some of the smartest people that I've ever met, I stood side by side in a commercial kitchen working the line. Some of the wittiest people that I've ever met have been on a factory floor. That there are people that make their money by being witty. They took an opportunity and they were able to capitalize on it. Guy that I'm working next to making a pre-hung wood door, 25 years ago. One of the funniest guys I ever met in my life. Boy, he would have made a great stand-up comedian. He didn't have an opportunity available to him. He wasn't able to take it. He didn't make that success. He is no less worthy of respect than Chris Rock. Both funny people. Both made me laugh, made me smile, and that's the important part.
Facts. Yeah. All right.
There's that sick beat.
It's pretty good, right?
Oh yeah. As a bass player, I'm just sitting here going like, yeah. There it is.
The Kosh. Woo!